Hello and welcome to Wheels Boy. Today we review the Baojun Yep, what is undoubtedly one of the least comfortable, least practical, and most expensive tiny electric vehicles I've ever driven. And yet, I want one. I want one really bad.
The Yep is a tiny electric car, and I do mean tiny. This thing measures just under 3.4 meters in length. That means our boxy little friend is about 45 centimeters or 18 inches shorter than a new Mini Cooper.
Suzuki Jimny. There. I said the thing you've all been thinking ever since you first laid eyes on this pint-sized creation. The square shape, the big fender flares, even the look of the front here all makes me think of a cuter, kind of less aggressive Jimny. I didn't think you could make a cuter, less aggressive Jimny, but there you go. It looks even more like a Jimny in its original highlighter yellow or highlighter green color, but this one has been wrapped in this gray wrap by Baojun themselves. I think this thing is absolutely ripe for modification, and so does Baojun. That's why they're offering a dealer-installed roof rack as well as optional all-terrain tires. Personally, my Yep would also have a big metal brush guard up here as well, even though I know that all of those things combined would absolutely murder the CLTC range of 303 kilometers you get from the 28 kilowatt-hour battery pack. This thing does support fast charging, and Wuling says it can go from a 30 to 80% state of charge in about 35 minutes. This cover, however, wow, that feels really, really cheap. But boxy fender flares is about as close as the Yep gets to being a true off-roader. It does have 15 centimeters of ground clearance, which is more than other cars on this platform, but doesn't really have any upgrades to the suspension to take advantage of that. Four-wheel drive? No. Locking diffs? Definitely not. Skid plates? Well, kind of. There's a plastic one here, and it's very thin. While I'm down here, I might as well point out that this thing has a single rear-mounted electric motor.
But what the Yep lacks in true off-road ability, it more than makes up for in gadgetry. That includes the car watch, an optional LED panel mounted on the rear tailgate that looks like a smartwatch. It can be used to display text and images.
Now, our car doesn't have one of those, but there is a dealer-installed option for a heated and cooled front space, which our car also doesn't have. So just imagine that here is a 35-liter space, and that space is full of cold drinks.
Baojun calls the interior of the Yep the Joy Box, and it is surprisingly packed with tech and features.
That includes the twin 10.25-inch LED displays, which are available on both trim levels of this car. You have your digital instrument cluster and, of course, your center screen. That infotainment screen runs on the Kios, K-I-O-S operating system. That system includes all the features you would expect, like navigation, media, as well as Bluetooth calling and audio. You also have voice commands for everything from the windows to the air conditioning to the navigation. That's not all, however. There's a ton of features inside of this car. You have auto hold. You have, 360-degree camera. That's right. If you need a 360-degree camera to park this car, you probably shouldn't be driving. Speaking of which, there's also ADAS. Level 2 ADAS, technology that's been powered by DJI, yes, DJI, the creators of the drone that your neighbor uses to look at you while you change your clothes through the window. As I said, the overall layout is very familiar if you've been inside of another Baojun or Wuling product. That includes the center console here with your transmission knob, as well as the overall kind of design and look of the doors. Material quality is, actually not so bad. There's different colors here. We've got a dark green, we've got a black, we've got this kind of interesting pattern on the door. It's enough to keep you interested and not to notice that it's all pretty cheap plastic. Is it just me, or do the buttons on this steering wheel look like the buttons on a Nintendo controller? Wait a minute. Up, up, down, down, left, left, right, right, A, B, A, B.
哎，怎么了？
This car has a 2.11 meter wheelbase. That's 10 centimeters longer than a Wuling Mini EV, but considerably shorter than that of the Wuling Bingo. That's going to have some serious repercussions for the way that it drives, but first, let's see the way that it sits. Okay. Actually, better than I would expected. I can really feel the extra 10 centimeters. I am 1.75 meters tall, 5'9" and I have about 3 fingers of space between my knee and the seat when that seat is adjusted for me in the driver's seat. Overhead, there's definitely no problem with space back here. There is a problem, however, with space back there. This thing is essentially useless unless you lay down the back seats. Then you have 715 liters of space.
The Yep rides on the same global small electric vehicle platform as the Wuling Mini EV, and even shares its McPherson strut front suspension and non-independent multi-link rear. The Yep, however, somehow manages to set a new low for comfort.
Remember when I said that short wheelbase would have repercussions for the way this thing rides? Well, what I mean is that it rides pretty bad. Worse even than the Wuling Mini EV with its even shorter wheelbase. That's because, at least as far as I can tell, in order to counteract the body roll that would have come with the raised ride height, they made the suspension a little bit stiffer. That means that the bucking that you get over bumps in the Wuling Mini EV is even worse in this car.
The Yep does change direction pretty willingly, which it should, considering it has a wheelbase only slightly longer than a go-kart. But I would advise against pushing this car to its handling limits.
Despite the efforts to control body roll, this thing definitely still feels like it might tip over whenever you throw it into a corner with any real speed. That single rear-mounted electric motor makes 50 kilowatts and 140 newton-meters of torque, enough to propel this thing to 100 kilometers per hour. Yes, that is the top speed, 100 kilometers per hour. It makes me wonder when exactly you're going to use that driver assistance system that I was talking about, the one from DJI. The system, by the way, is quite good. It's impressive that it has not only lane keep assist, but also automatic lane changes. And they're pretty smooth and quick. NVH in this car is noticeably worse than the Wuling Bingo, which has the much longer wheelbase and, well, drives more like a real car. There's lots of motor noise, lots of wind noise. It just doesn't feel like a very relaxing experience.
The safety features on the Yep are impressive, at least by the low standards of this segment. Not only do all models have electronic stability programming and front row airbags, but top spec cars with the DJI Driver Assistance Suite also have active safety systems like forward collision warning and automatic emergency braking.
The Baojun Yep is not comfortable. The Baojun Yep is not practical. And even at this price, the Baojun Yep isn't that great of a deal. What it is, though, is fun. Even as its suspension was nearly beating me to death on the road, I could not wipe the grin off of my face. If you had this much money, you would be way better off buying a Wuling Bingo. But honestly, your heart and mine, they belong to the Yep.